Herzlich willkommen bei Wein am Limit, liebe Walinauten. Schön, dass ihr wieder dabei seid zu Mehr Spaß im Glas. Den wollen wir heute haben. Den wollen wir heute haben. Und zwar vom anderen Ende der Welt. Und zwar echt. Es gibt ja Down Under und hinter Down Under kommt ja nochmal was. Und das nennt man Neuseeland. Alle wissen natürlich, der Herr der Ringe kommt daher. Aber es sind nicht die Lord of the Rings, die heute bei uns sind oder bei mir zu Gast sind, sondern es sind. You still understand what I'm saying? Yeah? This is Sherwyn Veldhuizen and Marcel Giesen, and they have a small, very small winery. These wonderful couple, these wonderful people in Canterbury, which is on the South Island of New Zealand. And actually, you're the first you're the second New Zealanders I have. Kiwis.
Kiwis.
Are we allowed to say Kiwis?
Yeah, you're allowed to say Kiwis.
Well, Germans are sauerkrauts, so so you're the Kiwis, and no, you're the second. I had another friend here from New Zealand, but that's a long time ago. Thanks for dropping by, and I understand you're on the trip in Europe, and we've been working now together for 2 years. Obviously, it makes a lot of fun. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of wine, and this is now the new toy from Wein am Limit.
Okay.
This is my daughter. She's into manga. You were wondering? My daughter's into mangas, and she said, "Papa, this is for you." So, if anybody has an idea what we should call her, please give us some advice. Maybe we call her Hildegard. I think is a good name. Hildegard.
It's a very German name.
Yes.
Very strong name.
Yes, strong name. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I understand you're both winemakers. You have a family business, another family business, which you run with your brothers in Marlborough. You are from Dutch descendants, but a winemaker from New Zealand. And what's so special about New Zealand wines? A lot of people don't know about New Zealand wines. Only the big names, of course. And a lot of people know the Sauvignon Blanc, which is the standard bearer. You're obviously into Chardonnay and Pinot. Why Chardonnay and Pinot?
Why Chardonnay and Pinot? Well, I guess for us when we started, and I guess we'll go back a little bit, and you can talk about how you started. But for us, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, those are the great varieties from Burgundy. And in terms of sometimes you go through life and you'll find something that speaks to you. And for us, from a varietal point of view, it's always been Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Maybe associated with the first trips that we went to Burgundy together. Certainly what we do at Bell Hill is the soil is very unique for New Zealand. It's limestone based, it's all marine derived, very high pH, high calcium content. And that limestone is what is very important in, a lot of France's vineyards, but certainly in Burgundy. So it was really that combination of having found that soil, deciding that we wanted to work together on our own project, and those two varieties making the most sense for that.
This is really special in terms of how you think in terms of biodiversity. I saw you use a lot of different clones, and you are really like in Burgundy with a lot of lieux-dits or small parcels you work, very high density vines planting. When you come up with the idea, first did you see the place and say, this is where we do it, or did you have the idea, we want to make a Burgundian wine, or did you see the space and said, this is the space where we want to make wine?
Well, we saw the space and we walked over the land and we saw there's a distinct. Bell Hill used to be a limestone quarry back in the early 1900s, from 1917 to the mid 30s, and so in the north face, which we need because that's where we get the most sun in the southern hemisphere. There is a distinct cut from those quarry operations, and walking in there, it was just like, we have to plant grapes here. If we don't plant grapes, we're going to regret it for the rest of our lives.
Sounds like the old Romans, because in the Meursault there's the La Perrière, which is also an old quarry, or the Kallstatter Saumagen, which was also built by the Romans. So basically the fall is kind of the same idea, yes?
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure if the Romans would have come as far as New Zealand, they probably would have...
They would have taken your land.
They would have planted there
Chardonnay, Bell Hill, 2013. So you obviously don't make a lot of wine.
No, so it's just 2 hectares. Like we were talking, very, very high plant density of up to 11,363 vines per hectare. And I guess going back to that, the soil, the Burgundian model of wine growing, it just made sense. And where we don't question the the choice of limestone soils in France. We also didn't question the Burgundian method of vineyard architecture, which was high plant density and vines low to the ground. If we were going to try if we were going to explore the purity of that soil, then it was natural that there was only one way to really do it. And I think Chardonnay is a variety that's very transparent to its environment. Marcel uses the term blotting paper. Blotting paper. Where if you really can absorb the features of the site and the soil.
So it remains a more neutral grape overall, and then it shows the expression of where it's from. And this is exactly what I'm saying to lots of my European friends. We still have this kind of, sometimes a little bit of prejudice towards New World wines, that they don't have terroir. I think, I'm not sure. I've tasted many New World wines which do have, obviously, terroir. Maybe it's not that many, as the model from the New World was at the beginning, I guess, more about the fruit. But I think it has changed, and there's a huge diversity in New Zealand.
The New World is not that new anymore. You know? It's like it's got a few dings on the outside, and it looks a bit used, and it's been around for 30, 40 years. If you think of California, it's been the last 50 years kind of the modern winemaking. So California kind of always led the way, but I think the notion of terroir is something that eventually what needed to happen, be it America, be it Australia or New Zealand, you actually needed to get the local people to drink wine. Because if you don't have a local, I don't think there's many places in the world where you have great terroir, where you have people not drinking wine.
Absolutely.
So you needed to
You
build
need that
that
cultural
up and build
component.
up exactly the cultural background to kind of have actually a business that is sustainable at the lower end or middle end or at the very top. And I think as the last 30 odd years have gone past, now is the time where you can say, well, yeah, we have got some 20-year-old vineyards or 30-year-old vineyards, and maybe we can look a little bit further than just the fruit angle. And I think with what we were trying to do at Bell Hill, it was really just to say, well, this soil is really unique, and most of New Zealand is planted on loess, wind-blown loess, on alluvial river plains, which are very common, very free-draining, very promoting very warm soils, which promote fruit, and that obviously worked extremely well for Marlborough. But for us, it was really trying to find something that had more that connection to the land, and try something where you said, well, let's throw caution in the wind and just see what happens. The wine will do the talking. It's not clever winemaking school which teaches you to make this kind of wine.
And
it's really old school, no?
It is very old school. It is, and I think too, going back to terroir, it's not. That's a whole multitude of different facets. It's not just a soil. It's not just a region. It's just not just a climate. It's people too. It's farming. It's care, and all of that does make up the parts of terroir. So it's not a simple term, and you know it's.
I think it has to be something which you can overlook for yourself, where you're in control of what you do. I think that's one of the other bases, I guess, for this. But this is really nice. It's quite young, of course, and I think at the moment, at this stage, when you have it this young, the Chardonnay, you get this. To me, is still an I would say bright New Zealandish expression to this wine. So maybe a little bit more lifted than maybe Burgundian wines, which sometimes can be a little bit more on the oxidized character, stronger, not oxidized in terms as a bad word, oxidized, more a brownish. This is more, you find a little bit of lemony, citrusy, and what I think for me the beauty in this wine lies, well, despite that you find a lot of minerals, is the acidity. That gives a super long lift in this wine, and I'm very happy with the 2013. It seems like yesterday I had the 12. Seems like the 13 seems to be a little bit more linear, more straight. So that's another evidence that there is big differences in your terroir where you work.
Definitely, and vintage variation very much so gives us that. But what we find, 2012, for example, was a very cool growing season. We had very small yields. However, we got a warm end to the season, which allowed us to ripen the fruit successfully. 2013 was more average in that the growing season was warmer, more moderate. The crops were normal. Danke.
Bitte schön. Brigitte, you want to drink it up?
You're nicht in front of. So.
Oh, not in front of the camera. Okay. Oh, schade. Oh, no, this is so. It's really precious. This wine. It's really precious. Yeah. So, sorry, I was interrupting.
No, that's all right. So we do definitely have vintage variation, but what we found over the years is if you have the attention to detail with the farming, if you have a site that allows your wines to speak for themselves, then that vintage effect does become moderated over time, and you still see the thread of where the wine is from and what it's grown in, which is more important than fluctuations in temperatures.
So older vineyards produce more constant, I'd say, better crops.
Oh no, that's still very climatically determined on a season-to-season basis. But just no, I guess I'm saying if you look back, say at a vertical tasting over time, and if you look at the wines that you made over the last 10 years, you see more of the place and less of vintage variation. As you look back.
Yeah. So now we have a wine which is called the Old Wecker. Is that correct?
Old Wecker Pass Road.
Old Wecker Pass Road. And I understood you found some Maori, that's where the name comes from Maori paintings you found there, from the people who worked the land before it was a quarry, kind of, a couple of hundred years ago. Pinot Noirs, younger wines, is that correct?
Predominantly younger vines, yes. So when we first started at Bell Hill, the first 4 vintages were under the Old Wecker Pass Road label. Everything is farmed at Bell Hill, it's all estate grown. All of the parcels have the potential to make it into the Bell Hill blend, but in those early years it was about the younger vines, and also we had a later stage of planting. So the current vintage of the 2013 does have younger vine material in it as well. But essentially what matters to us at Bell Hill is that everything has the potential to go into the Bell Hill blend. Like we were talking earlier, the blocks are all multi-cloned. We pick by block, not by clone. We're not interested in the clonal character. We're interested in the parcel of land and the soil and the orientation and the slope. And we ferment separately, go to barrel separately, and then blend for the 2 wines.
It seems like in general in New Zealand over the past years, let's say the past 10, 15 years, that Pinot Noir becomes more and more an interesting variety to grow, and I've seen much fruitier examples than this, which I find quite appealing, I have to say, as Pinot Noir is a variety which can wonderfully display this lift of fresh sour cherries. Here we are going a little bit away from the obviously fruity experience, so this is really for people who look for the secondary flavors, in my opinion, like earthy, truffly, not truffle, but kind of a earthy sous-bois, as the French say, flavors.
Sous-bois and a little bit of olive, a little bit of some green tomato, or a little bit of it's got very dried herbs, spice, a bit of root vegetables like beetroot, and there's a bit of cherry, and of course there's fruit there, but somehow the site doesn't produce a big fruit bomb that the world is kind of knowing New Zealand Pinot for. But I think in the last 10, 20 years, Pinot Noir in New Zealand has really been about trying to make a Pinot Noir, where we are trying to make something that is really a Bell Hill wine, and just using Pinot as a grape to actually extract the flavour of the land, and expressing that in a way that you can say, well, does this grape actually suit, and does it do justice to expressing the flavour that we think that is hidden in the soil?
I think the danger sometimes lies nowadays. You hear a lot about like this kind of, we want to, like our friend from the United States, he says, we're going to make America great again. We have people, we're going to make a wine great. And I think that's a danger in terms that you're trying too much from the outside. But I understood your message that was really about your idea is eventually it becomes a great wine, but it's up to the place. And basically the gardeners or the land keepers. Or,
That's right. And I think that's really important in in everything really in life, but in wine for us is that there's no place for ego in wine. It's really about having the humility and the patience and the ability to just step back and sort of read what's in front of you and nurture without trying to put your own stamp on it.
What I found in the tannin structure in your wines, that was the first occasion I've ever had a Bell Hill wine a couple of years ago, that the tannins are quite not robust, but they are there. You can feel it. I mean, it's not like, here I am and I'm quite silky and I just wave you goodbye on my palate. No, they really stay. The wine.
Do, and I think that's that balance with the fact that the wines are a little bit more savoury in that spectrum. They're earthy, more mineral, a little bit more iron, a little bit more blood, perhaps, if you like. They sort of and with that you've got tannin structures that, although they're not big tannins, they stay very connected to the wine. And I think with the that core of that mineral acid that provides the backbone for the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay as well, just has a different play of tannin profile on the wine.
What will be the best window for drinking your wines? It's always difficult to ask.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, 5 years is a minimum,
Yeah.
but between 5 and 10, you get a good look at the Pinot, just to go into that secondary kind of phase, and keep in mind that they're all screw caps, so that's a given. And I think especially with the Chardonnay, once the bottle is open over the next 24 hours, you will get a lot more interest in the wine opening up, and that's just what we use. We have to use it because it's the best way to seal a bottle that we know at the moment, and its consistency from bottle to bottle, which, given the small number of bottles that we make, is important. But it's letting the wines breathe. I mean, the early vintages the first Bell Hill Pinot we made was in 2003. And that is still, now 14 years later, is still drinking really well. It's just starting to get into that tertiary area, but it's holding itself quite well, and they seem to go the distance.
If this would be a Burgundian wine, in terms of when you smell this wine, which appellation could that be? Let's say, well, we only. I'm thinking.
Don't ask us that.
I'm thinking.
You tell us.
You might have to ask it. Why don't you ask a master sommelier?
Yeah, why don't we ask him? Where do you know anything? Oh no, she's not. No, I was thinking. I mean, again, it's stylistically its own style. I think somehow it has some Pommard, which reminds me of Pommard because of that. There is a kind of a little bit of plumminess in this wine, especially now in the Pinot Noir. And then on the earthy flavors, I find it much more like a Von Romane. So something in between that, and then again, it's only like maybe that's, you always look at what you have been brought up. Then you compare, and I think there is a mistake sometimes in that system. On the other hand, here I can see that Burgundy is basically the mind behind you, or mind behind grape, but you have to work it totally different. I mean, obviously, Southern Hemisphere has a different climate and different times. So you can only learn from them, and I think they can learn a lot from you as well at the same time, how you use it. I mean, this is quite entrepreneurial. If you look at this.
Well, it's crazy.
I mean, there's another way of saying entrepreneurial.
There's no sane reason for doing what we started. When you look at a piece of land, no one's growing grapes around you. You just
you're choosing the hardest possible way, the most costly, the hardest work.
11,363 plants per hectare is no. How do you say in German? Zuckerschlecken.
No, no sugar biting.
Yeah, it's hard graft. So you gotta do it's something if you believe in it, then it's you're kind of drawn to it, and you want to do it as pure and as well as physically possible, and that's why we only have got 2 hectares, because you can actually say we still do everything by hand and look after it, and if it was 10 hectares or 20 hectares, you couldn't do it.
So sorry for the little glitch. Our chip only has space for 20 minutes. So we did a little longer than we expected to do. But it's, obviously, there's lots of things going on in these wines, and I can say to me they are kind of eye openers. That's, of course, I'm very happy that we can work together. And for me, I use this wine as a, let's say, inspiring thing, and I think this is like how it's meant, to inspire people, in the end, to have joy, and it gives the highest pleasures, my friends. So whenever you find a bottle, it's not that easy. You need to go to New York, for example. Last time I've seen your wine on the wine list was in a beautiful restaurant called 11 Madison Park. It was the only wine from New Zealand which was on the list. Normally when you go to restaurants all over the world, you see another name all over the place, which is cool. But here in this case, I thought that was cool to see Bell Hill. Great. Thanks for the inspiration. And I know it's you look at it as a craft, which is really something special.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Andrew.
So if there are any questions to those guys, please ask them, and I'm sure I find a way that these questions are going to be answered. I think you should have a glass of those. Try to find them. Bye. Thanks.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Just.